Oh, you have After back there. Oh my gosh. Oh, you
I
have Twilight. Wow, you got some good ones.
so I have my bookshelf upstairs in my bedroom, but for this interview, I kind of like decked it out with I do have Gabriel's Inferno here, but it's a darker book
Oh, it's
cover,
so,
so it's
yeah, of
hard to
course.
see. But yeah, I'm a huge After fan. I love Anna Todd. I know she loves you too. So
She is like, well, besides the fact that she's a good friend of mine, she's also like the most supportive of this community and just the most, she's like such an awesome human being. So
that's what she said. Yeah, she sent me a message on Instagram and she was like, "Oh my God, Tosca's just like the best human being and she's amazing." And she was like, I didn't tell her anything about the movie. I only said, I'm like, Melanie and Julia just look amazing together on screen because I want her to like experience it for herself because I know she's so excited about it.
yeah, we're actually going to send her a copy as well. Probably, I don't know, in the next day or two.
That's
But she
awesome.
sends me messages like, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I was like, okay, nice.
I'm so glad to have someone super supportive. But yeah, no, thank you so much for doing this today. I really appreciate it. I literally have like so many questions like
Oh,
for
cool.
you. So yeah, just getting started. Was today supposed to be the premiere for the film?
No,
Like,
the 28th.
oh, the 28th was of it. Oh, okay. Because I think I saw something on your Instagram that like your mom was like gonna dress up and do like her little at-home premiere.
Yeah, my mom, yes, and she's still planning on doing that. So I guess we'll see that new look on the 28th.
Yeah, there you go. Well, honestly, congratulations on the movie. I saw it last night. I saw it again this morning because I like to kind of like revel and get all my stuff prepared. So as an interviewer, I obviously want to dive into questions about the movie, but as a fan, when does part two come out? Because I am dying now.
And can I tell you, part two is even better than part one. It's just, it's delicious. So that's going to come out. Our plan is the end of July.
Oh,
You know,
wow.
it's a difficult. We're trying to, our plan was never to release it as three big movies, and I know people, we don't want to take advantage of people, and we want to make sure everyone gets to enjoy this. It's just that it takes us so long to actually make the movies, and especially, in our current environment, where
Mhm.
everyone's working in these very remote locations and then trying to get things done. So it's part three, unfortunately, will take a little longer to get out, but part two is it's on its way.
So parts one and two have been filmed then,
And part three, everything's
and
been
part three.
filmed.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
everything's been filmed. It's just the post-production process. It takes about 8 weeks to do sound and music, and then you have to do all the subtitles and you have to do all these other things. So it just takes time.
I was gonna say, what's on your wall there? Your little clipboard there.
Here.
Yes.
Oh, that's the slate from Dirty Sexy Saint.
Oh, that's such a great one. I've seen all of your directed films.
Oh, thank you.
I'm a
Thanks.
huge yes, I love Passionflix so much. So, speaking of just like being in self isolation right now, like you said, I know that you kind of just recently finished editing and perfecting the movie. Like you said, post production takes so long, and a lot of fans and people don't even realize how long that process takes. So, do you feel like that helped you in a way at all, having maybe some extra time editing at home, or like maybe just the editing process in general with us just being in self isolation? How was that different making this film and compared to all of the other films you've done?
It didn't, I wouldn't say that it helped us, because we can normally edit pretty fast, and,
Yeah.
and we work pretty fast. And unfortunately, as soon as the isolation happened, I think everyone's mental energy just sort of changed. And it's really hard to work alone at home when you on something that you're putting so much of your love and care into, when you have this uncertainty around you. And so it was a little difficult for us for the first few weeks, but then we just, took a deep breath and realized what we're actually making here, and how it's not about the speed in which we make it, but really about how much love and dedication we put into it. So we just took a deep breath and we're like, okay, we're just going to push the release of the second and third part, and we'll just do it as we can, and feel comfortable doing it. And unfortunately, we were able to cut part two pretty quickly, and then part three, again, it's all just trying to fit it into the time that we have together. So
Yeah, well, since we do have some like a little bit of time here, I kind of want you to take me back to how you first started Passionflix, in the sense of there's so many, you know, book readers and fans out there who just really love letting the scenes breathe and watching these favorite characters come to life. Whereas, you know, a big budget, you know, studio production, sometimes, you know, things are cut. And what I've always appreciated about your films is that you really just let the scenes breathe. You let the fandom embrace in the characters going on and having those full pages of dialogue. So was there for you when you first started this, is there a particular movie that you saw or book that you read where you're like, I really just want this to, you know, be like a huge thing for fans to come to Passionflix, where they're able to get what they want from these books? How did you kind of start that? And was there anything specific that you read or something that you watched that you're like, I want more of this in my life and I want people to see more of this?
Yeah, well, so what influenced me was the BBC version of Pride and Prejudice. So if you remember that, it's 6 hours long.
Mm-hmm.
And,
I have it here somewhere.
I love it. And I own it in digital DVD. I think I got the VHS. We're actually going to be licensing it for Passionflix now, which is going to be awesome.
Oh,
I know.
awesome.
But it's that. So I love Pride and Prejudice, obviously one of the original romance authors, and we can all be very, very grateful to Jane Austen. But it was one of those things where I'd like, if I needed a day to myself, I would just sit there and watch all 6 hours of Pride and Prejudice. That was the best book adaptation to that I've seen, that I know. And so when we started Passionflix, I wanted to do the same. So we are pretty laser focused on our audience and the fans. And being a fan myself, I want to be able to see all those words. And so I guess for Passionflix, the first one that we really were able to spend time on that is Driven. So.
Oh. Driven is a masterpiece.
But so Driven is a 95 page script. It really should have been an hour and a half. But when we were filming it, we just took our time with everything. And every time, and even now, every time I film, any actor that works with me, they know I always say to them, please take your time. I can always take away time, but I can't add more time. So just relish in the scene. Give me everything. And we'll just keep these scenes nice and long, because our audience wants to see those words come to life on screen. Mm-hmm. We want to see these people talk and connect and communicate. And it's such a major it's a major part of Passionflix and our mandate, which is firstly removing shame from sexuality for women specifically, and secondly it's communication and compromise and connection in relationships. So
no, I think you put it beautifully. And when I was on set, I went to set for After We Collided, which is the sequel to After. And I spoke with Roger Kumble about this, who directed the sequel. And, you know, like the biggest challenge as a director is, even though you as a filmmaker let your scenes breathe, there's still that struggle in adapting, you know, the novel and putting it into filmmaking. So for you, like, yes, sometimes things need to be changed. For your stuff, not too much, to be honest.
No.
Everything is so exact, which is amazing, and that's why the fans love it. But as a filmmaker, how do you you have to keep the fandom in mind, but you also have to change things to make the movie flow. So how do you kind of go about that in your projects, and specifically with this film?
I work extremely closely with the author. So if anything needs to be changed, I immediately send an email or call them and I say, this is the section that we will change, but we don't really change it. Like, we're not going to change the dialogue. We're not going to change anything. What we might need to do is have two things happen in one scene. So, you know, we might need to combine a location or something like that, but we try very hard not to pull anything from the book or use any dialogue or anything that wasn't actually in the book either. So, you know, it's basically our Bible. We just sort of go back to it every time. And the very fortunate thing about Passionflix and the fact that we control our distribution, and our fans are the ones that we are really catering to, the fans of the books. We don't have the restrictions that Roger might have with something like After We Collided, because we're not we're not beholden to a distributor or to television or to any kind of time formats. And so as Passionflix grows and we have the financial ability to be able to really deliver these books exactly like, you know, the Pride and Prejudice version, we don't have to cut anything from the book. We can do it exactly like the book is, and that is our goal. Just move more and more closer and closer to the book.
Well, so speaking of, I mean, I know like with Driven, obviously, like, you know, Christy was on set, you know, she has a cameo, and I know that, you know, you've worked with closely with some of the other authors, but this author is obviously anonymous and nobody knows what they look like. And I'm just so curious how that process is with you, and when you've reached out to Sylvain, like what those conversations were like. Was it, you don't have to get into too many details, obviously, just, you know, as much as you can say, but was it through email? I mean, did they ever, you know, come to set, you know, at some points? Like how has that been different in regards to this particular film versus working with, you know, some of the other authors in your other films and series?
Well, SR is very quick at responding via email. So every single time I had a question or a thought, I would just send it to them and they would respond very quickly. And we were very fortunate to be on the same page from the very beginning. So it helped. It just helped the process. Every time we would build a set, I would send a picture, or I would, you know, for me it's exciting too, because I am a fan. So if I can create something and then send it to the author and the author goes, ah, that's great, that's just how I thought about it, and I was like, oh my god,
Oh my God.
they
I did
responded.
so
That's
good.
exciting. I did something that they like. It is, you know, it's still I'm still a fan of their work. And so yeah, so working with Sylvain Renard was beautiful. Firstly, they have such a calm and eloquent and kind way of speaking and communicating with you, and it immediately puts any level of stress that you might have in a film to rest.
Mhm.
It's like, oh wow, thank you, that was very calm, you know, we have to adjust this, or this is what I thought on here, thank you so much, you know, very kind responses always. And I think that set the tone for this entire production.
And it seems like they've been like very, very positive and responsive on Twitter and like social media and everything, which is just like so great. So yeah, so I want to get to Melanie and Julio because the tension and the like. I mean, I would, now that I've seen it again, like and twice now, like you can literally cut that sexual tension with a knife. And what I think was so beautiful about part one in this film is you really, really embraced the slow burn of the book. And a lot of these other books that I like, you know, they're getting to the sex stuff right away. But here, you know, he's really, really I feel like Julio did such a good job as Professor Emerson and really relishing in the fact that you know, Julia is just like so innocent, and it's exactly like the book. That is my point. So I just kind of wanted to talk with you about, did they do a chemistry read? How many actors did you see before you picked them? And kind of take me back to that initial part in casting them.
Yes. So we didn't hold auditions for Gabriel's Inferno. We went and did basically a worldwide search for the people that we were looking for. There were there was a Canadian and American that we looked at that were pitched to us first. Neither one of them really um, uh, were really right for it, but
Mm-hmm.
we were trying to look closer to home. And as soon as I had those meetings with those two people, I immediately called our casting director and I said, this isn't right. We need to broaden our search,
Wow.
go to the world. And then Ali and I posted a picture on Instagram and said, searching for Gabriel. And all these people responded with all their thoughts on who that person should be. And one of the fans suggested Julia Barudi. And so, you know, we're looking through it. And so I emailed our casting director, Lindsay Shagg, and I said, hey, our fan suggested Julia Barudi. And she goes, oh, that's really funny because Julia Barudi's manager just emailed me and said, Julia wants to do this part.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, oh, well, let's send him the script and then let's have a meeting. And that's basically what happened. And the same thing happened with Melanie. And she'd read the book. So it was, it was really great.
I mean, they're exactly like the characters how I
Yeah.
pictured reading the books. So can you talk about what the filming and like the physicality of like, Julia being just so petite and small and angelic like, and of course, like, Professor Emerson Julio is just like towers over her, especially in the scene at the end where she's like carrying him. So can you talk about, I just kept noticing throughout how just like in this, the way you shot it, just showing the physicality of them was just so important because it's described so vividly in the books. So can you talk about that process in regards to filming them for the film?
Sure. I mean, I think both Julio and Melanie would agree that I am, I am um, I'm very, very much so with the book, right? So if the book said he touched her cheek, then I would say, you have to touch her cheek. No, 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 you must be with the knuckle. It has to be here. It has to be exactly here. And I would copy the words from the book into the script and say, this is where you touch. This is how you do it. The left hand, the right hand. And we would try very hard to copy exactly what's in the book, if possible. Julio, of course, is significantly taller than Melanie, but so is
Mhm.
Gabriel. Gabriel's much taller than Julia. And so the height was actually accurate, which
Yeah.
is awesome. But it does make it a little tricky. I mean, obviously, sometimes Melanie's wearing high heels, or we'd have to put her on an apple box because you can't film with two people like this. It's too hard.
Mhm.
But it just added to that the strength of Gabriel and the delicacy of Julia. It really, their presence and their physicality lent to those roles so well. And the two of them, I mean, they just love each other, and they connected the first time that they met via Skype. Um,
Okay.
so I think that just anytime when people really really love each other on screen, you can tell.
How long did you do any major rehearsing prior to filming, like in New York, or was a lot of it done kind of virtually prior to filming? Because I know sometimes with filming it can be tricky. You don't have a lot of rehearsal time. I think you shot in New York for a month or month and a half or so. So how long of rehearsal time did they get to kind of build up before they actually started filming?
With me, not very much. We actually only did one read through of the script from beginning to end before we jumped on stage. We had a lot of conversations. We talked through everything. We went through the script together a number of times, but we didn't actually rehearse. The two
Mhm.
of them, however, would on their own rehearse constantly. So
Wow.
they, the very first time that I met Giulio via Skype, because he was in Italy, he'd already read the script twice. And the script is 200 pages. So he'd read the script twice. He had detailed notes and questions and was thoroughly into this. And Melanie had read the script a number of times, but also read the book. So she was very much so into it and understood this character. And then the two of them met by Skype, and they read through the whole script
Wow.
themselves together via Skype. And she's in Australia and he's in Italy. So,
Right.
it was always tricky to get us all together. And then when we got to upstate New York, we just read through it once, and then we dove right in.
That just shows you how impeccable their chemistry is. The
Yeah,
fact that they don't even get a lot of rehearsal time in person and they're able to pull it off like
yeah.
that.
They were very dedicated and really committed to this book, this script, and these fans.
So in your projects and in this film in particular, I know part one is kind of more about the angst and the buildup and all of that tension. But when in so many of your scenes, the way you shoot, the more intimate scenes is just so beautiful and so realistic. But when you're doing that for the actors, is that a different type of set day than it is when maybe they're just doing something where they're getting in a car or walking down the street? When you're doing those very intimate sets, intimate days on set, how does that differ for you, and is it more of a closed set that day?
Yeah, it's absolutely closed. We speak to the actors and we find out who in the set they are comfortable with having close by, because we need to
Wow.
have a costumes person with a robe. What about sound? All these different people that would need to normally be there. So a set where we would normally have, 50 people watching, now goes down to about 5.
Wow.
And so we limited it extremely to their comfort level. And then when it comes to actually making those days, I make sure that very little, if nothing else, is being filmed that day, because I want to
Oh,
be able to really spend our time with it, not rush through it and not make somebody feel uncomfortable. And if people need to take a moment or talk through something, then we just take our time with it and make sure that everyone's okay with what we're doing. Um, we also rehearse everything. Well, first I write everything out. Every single motion that they're going to be doing, I write it out. So again, hand touches hair, goes down here, touches the shoulder, goes down the chest. Every single thing is written out, and then we rehearse it with the actors so that they know exactly what they're going to be doing. And then we slowly but surely move to anything that would require any removal of clothes, and try to do as much. I tried to shoot as little of that as possible. So my goal is to shoot as little of the nudity as possible, because I don't think that we as women need to see that much. We can portray the scene without it as much as
exactly.
possible.
Yeah, no, well, I love how you do that. And I mean, there's so many scenes that, you know, I just love in this film. And I particularly love the one where Julia spits out the wine when they're in the
Oh,
kitchen. It's so good.
so good.
So for that, I mean, and there's a couple of different things where I want to know how many takes you did it. But like for that one, like how many takes did you do? Is Melanie actually like spitting on Julio's shirt? Because
Yeah.
it's just so good.
Well, so here's the funny story. So we were like, how are we going to do this? We only have 2 shirts.
Oh no.
And I found out about it on the day. I was like, how can we only have 2 shirts? She's spitting red wine on his shirt. We only have 2 shirts. Okay, here we go, guys. We're going to get. And the funny thing is that Julio had actually filmed something like this in the past, where he had to do spit takes and spat. So he's showing us how to do it. He's like, this is how you do it. This is how you do it. And he's showing it to Melanie. We're like, okay, here we go. We're gonna do it. And we got it in 1 take.
You did?
Yeah,
So
that
you
was it.
did you
Yep,
do any more, or is that the first take?
that's it. That's the one we did.
Oh my God, it's so good. I was like, oh my God, she's so spastic, just like the book, and like very, very similar to you know, Anastasia Steele in
Yeah.
50 Shades of Grey. And I mean, again, like, you know, these books, you know, Twilight, 50 Shades, you know, they've all had comparisons. I especially saw like a lot of, you know, 50 Shades comparisons when I was watching this film. So I'm curious for you, is that something that you were conscious of in regards to relating it to those other books? I mean, in the sense of that, yes, like they are different, but the fandom has, of course, related Christian Grey to Professor Emerson. Is that something that you were conscious of in regards to filming, or were you just kind of really just going through the screenplay and going through the book?
You know, I saw this story actually as its own entity. I never really saw it as following the other storylines. I can see that there's so many of our alpha males in all the romance novels tend to have similarities.
Mm-hmm.
The For me, it was actually more of a Twilight. I hate to say fan fiction, but a Twilight
but
fan fiction.
it did start as Twilight
Yeah.
fan fiction, just like 50 Shades did. But yes, like when I'm reading them as well, like I just read them and I read them just like with 50 Shades. Like you don't think of Twilight, just like with After, I don't think of One Direction at all. Like
Right.
these are just the characters.
Right. I sort of related it more to the Twilight side of things, although I am a big fan of 50 Shades, and E.L. James is an amazing human being.
Mm-hmm.
But I sort of I focus more on the Twilight side of things, and the danger of them being together. So that was where that element sort of came in for me. I was like, you know, in the Twilight world, it's dangerous for them to be together, and in the Gabriel's Inferno side, it's dangerous for them to be together because it ultimately could hurt her. And so that's kind of what I sort of focused on, and that's why we have all these little references to apples and things like that.
I have it written down here. I'm like apples, like
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, how do I fit Claire de Lune in there? Somehow it's gonna
so
have to
good.
happen.
The
Yeah.
the music choices in this one, in particular, I felt were different in your other films in the sense of like, I don't know, like I just felt like it really related to like these characters, and they were just so fitting. How did it, do you know in your mind what the music choices are going to be when you're filming, or is that something that you do in post production?
We do it in post.
Okay.
In this particular case, though, a lot of the songs that are in Gabriel's Inferno were actually mentioned in the book.
Right.
So we were able to get them.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Lacrimosa, the Matthew Barber songs, Besame Mucho. And so we've never had the opportunity to reach out to some of these bigger artists and ask them if we can use their music. And Matthew Barber actually reached out to us and said, hey, I hear my songs in this book. Can it be in the movie? And we're like, oh my
Amazing.
God. Yes, thank
Yes.
you. And what a great guy. And then the same Lacrimosa we were able to get, and then we were able to record our own version of Besame Mucho. So that's exciting to us.
Yeah, no, I thought the music choices were just so beautiful, and so happy that like you were able to use so much of the book. Like product placement has always been like a big thing in movies, for forever. And I love it when like it's done subtly. And I wasn't going to bring this up, but I thought that like the fact that Professor Emerson is getting into a Tesla, I just loved that so much, honestly. And I think that it was super fitting for his character. And I'm just curious for you as a filmmaker, when you are, doing something like that, how do you work that in when it's a family business?
Well, our budgets aren't the highest ones out there, and the Tesla is my car.
It is?
Yeah,
That's your actual car that
that's my
you
actual car.
used?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's the
So
coolest like tidbit ever.
that's my car. So we wanted a really beautiful car. He drives a Jag in the book,
Yeah.
and we couldn't find we couldn't find a high-end Jag in the area that we were in,
Hmm.
and we couldn't import a car to Syracuse. We could find like this like 2002 Jag, and I'm like, Gabriel's not gonna he's not gonna drive that car.
Yeah.
And so I asked Sylvain Renaud if they would be okay if we put him in a Tesla, and they said yes, as long as we didn't make it about the Tesla, which I don't think that we did.
No.
So they were fine with it. But it is one of the things I'm like, oh my God, I'm changing it from the book. But also I kind of feel like Gabriel would probably drive an electric car.
I thought it was very fitting and very, like in like a modern way, like for his character. And I feel like you have, such amazing fans that I thought that it was like kind of a cute thing for you and your fans that you included it in the film like the way you did.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. But it is my car.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that. I actually have. So like I said, I love the movie so much. I can't not wait for parts 2 and 3. How do you decide where you're going to cut the films, and where parts 1 and 2, and I guess where parts 1 and 2 are going to be ending?
Yeah. Well, part 1, I always knew where it could end because it's just such a particular moment.
Yes.
And so much changes after that moment. We are in the slow burn, and we are in the sort of meek, not weak, but the meeker version of Julia. And then she's like, that's it, kiddo. No more. And then her strength really, she's like fiery, and she's pretty strong for moving on outwardly. And so the big question was, how do we decide to end part 2? And I know you haven't seen that yet, but basically what we did for part 2 and 3 is we sat in the Passionflix offices with the other Passionflix staff, and we played them the rough cut versions of both of these movies back to back with Lauren and Ali, who are the other 2 people. We're a 4-person company.
Yeah.
With Lauren and Ali that were in there, and we said to them, where do you think it would make sense to end the second part? And Ali is the one that actually suggested a place that works for her, and Lauren jumped in. Lauren, who works with me, she's our director of development, is one of the best people to watch a movie with. She's like the fan, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so you know, we just take the we show it. We do focus group showings in our office with the people that work here, and we decided then where to end it.
I volunteer as tribute.
I'm pretty sure you're going to get the second part.
Yeah,
soon.
no, okay, no, I'm just kidding. But no, I got so many fan questions for you and for Melanie and Julio, and one of the main questions was, what scene did you? You're a fan of the book, obviously, and was there a particular scene where, after you yelled cut, that you felt particularly emotional watching that scene, or just like it doesn't even have to be anything, significant, just like a scene where you're like, wow, like that, I can't believe that I got to experience it that way, and just watching these two actors become these characters.
There were so many, and I'm actually gonna, the scene, I think that the final scene that we have in part one was a very powerful scene for us to do, and I just always had it in my head as to how she was going to say those words about Beatrice. I just always could see it in my head, and so being able to film that and actually get it exactly how it was in my head was really powerful to me. And I was like, that's it, that's awesome. So that's the part that I was very excited about. But the part that I was most nervous to do is really in part two. So okay. I don't know if I can speak to that yet, but in part two, the scene in the office right after the argument in the seminar room is the one that I was the most scared to do.
And I think you and Melanie talked about that a little bit on Instagram Live, right?
Yeah.
Is that what you said? That, yeah, you said you were finishing filming, or like cutting, you were finishing working on that particular scene.
Yeah.
With her.
Yeah. And it's brilliant. It's great. But when we were filming it, I was so scared because it was so important for me as a fan to be able to see these two people have that kiss exactly as I pictured it in the book, and the delicacy and each little touch had to mean something. And so that's what I was the most scared to do, and I think people are going to be loving it.
You have the coolest job ever. You're the fan.
I do have the coolest job ever.
You also have like the brains to be a filmmaker and put it together. I love it so much. Well, I do have like a couple of questions about Driven. If you can't answer them, it's totally fine. Okay. I know that you guys had recast Colton already, and I know you can't say anything about the actor yet, but do you have any plans on refilming anything from the final episode or any of the other scenes in the series with Olivia and the new actor?
Yeah. So, the book 2, Fueled, actually starts with his view. He has a dream, and in that dream, he's recalling a lot of these moments with Riley. Yeah. Colton is. Yeah. And so we will have to go in there and we will have to film a lot of these moments, just little moments that Colton dreams about, and that then turn into this nightmare.
The nightmare.
And then he wakes up and he throws her out. So we have to reshoot the final scene anyway, because that's what's in the book. But it also does help us, to transition to a new Colton. Also, in Crashed, during the, I hope I'm not giving away spoilers to people who haven't read it, but
I've read all of the books. For me, but for anyone who hasn't read it, I know book 2 picks up pretty much right as she storms out of his house. Yeah. I had to I was reading. I was like, what's gonna happen? So, and of course, we've been waiting so long to get season 2. I know, but the fans, Driven is just such an interesting thing to me, because the fans are just so passionate, and it's such Christy is just so involved with the fandom as well. Can you say if she's gonna have a little cameo or anything in the second series?
We'll have to bring her back. She was great. We'll give her a little bit more time to act this time. She was quite nervous. And Christy's great. Big supporter of Passionflix, big supporter of ours, and is excited to get going on the sequels. And so, as I was mentioning, in the third book, when Colton asks Riley something,
yes,
nice, and then she has to go and revisit all of these locations that they went on together. So in that regard, we would have to go and film in little moments in those areas as well. That I'm sort of like, I'm speaking cryptically in case people haven't read the book.
Right. So for in book two, I guess like for, you know, season two, series two,
Yeah.
are you planning on casting a little Colton and doing any of like the nightmare scenes? Have you, I'm just curious if, because I know that was like, that's like again, it's like a big kind of theme in a lot of these books, is to have the man who's, of course, has like the horrible, you know, troubled past. And Colton's is one of the worst I've ever read, ever. So I'm curious to see what you were going to do in regards to that material.
Yeah, I've discussed it with our new actor,
Oh,
and and how we will be doing it. And you know, I think that I have no interest in putting a young actor into an uncomfortable situation.
mm-hmm.
So we have to be conscious of that situation as well. But I do think it's an important story element and an important bit of information to share. Just in general with our audiences, to that these sorts of things happen, and we need to see how it affects people so much later on in life. So it's more about how it affects them later on in life. But
Mm-hmm.
that opening scene will include some uncomfortable stuff.
So I know we're all in self-isolation now still. So do you have any, like, what is the process you are currently in regards to season two for Driven?
Well, if we hadn't had to go into
I know.
self-isolation, we would have finished filming both Fueled and Crashed last week.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
The
It was,
fans are literally over here being like, oh.
yeah. It was infuriating. We were supposed to start filming on April 6th.
And you were going to do both Fueled and Crashed
Both
back
back to
to
back.
back
Mm-hmm.
and just get it done.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
any idea, I mean, like, I guess we're all kind of waiting, but any idea of when that's going to start up?
You know, we have three things we have to do this year. So basically, we were going to finish Fueled and Crashed and Wicked, by the way, at the same time with a different director.
Okay.
So we were going to finish Fueled and Crashed. Then I was going to finish Rapture, because we only did half of Rapture, and we have to do the other half of Rapture, and we were supposed to go to Italy and then the
Oh my
Massachusetts
gosh.
part. And then we were going to go and film This Man. So I
Okay.
have a lot of big projects that were supposed to be done by the end of August. And right
Wow.
now, that doesn't seem realistic at all, obviously. So as soon as we come back, we'll go directly into Wicked, which is not a problem. And then we'll then have to check the availability again of our actors, specifically Olivia and our new guy,
Mhm.
to make sure that they are available. You know, the fortunate thing about the Driven sequels is that it does take place mostly in Los Angeles, and the weather
Yes.
here is great all year round.
Yeah.
So as soon as they give us the okay, we can go ahead and shoot, and we'll start prep and we'll start doing it. The difficult thing with making our movies is that they are intimate movies, and so people do have to be close together.
I
And so
know.
it's not something that we can film in a situation where people have to be, you know, they're having a conversation 6 feet apart, is not going to work for us. So
No.
but we're looking into every you know, possibility. Do we all quarantine for 14 days together in a hotel and hang out, and then we all, you know, promise ourselves that this is what we're going to do, and we're going to live here
Yeah.
for, you know, basically 2 months? Is everyone okay with living together for 2 months in a hotel? And if everyone is, and that's the entire crew, then that's a possibility. We'd take temperatures, you know, all the things that we have to do to keep everyone safe.
Yeah. Again, I volunteer as tribute
Please come on over.
to be on set and watch. But no, Tosca, you've given me so much of your time. I appreciate it so much. I mean, I talk to a lot of filmmakers. I've been, you know, doing film criticism and doing interviews for a couple years now, and I don't know if I've ever spoken to a director who has this many projects working at one time. Like, I know people in Hollywood are like, yes, they're always busy. Like, and I've, you know, there's a lot of, you know, directors that have so many projects, but like, you really have a lot going on, and you're so organized, and you just do so much for the fandom. And I think that, like, I mean, I really think that this movie, and I've only seen part one, like, I feel like this is your masterpiece.
Thank you, thank you.
It's
I am just so honored and thrilled that I get this um, lucky job to turn these romance novels into movies and
you
series.
did it. You did
Yeah, I have the
it.
support of our fans, and but
Yes.
it is like this crazy dream come true that I actually get to do these. And so you know, there's this giant board here that just shows all of the movies that we have to do. And you know, I'm like, okay, well, which ones will I not direct? And it tears me apart to not direct every single one of them. So I'm like,
Mhm.
well, so right now of the like 20 that we have there, I think I'm not directing 5. So
So the other 15, yeah, because
and I have
for
to do them in a year.
yeah,
Yeah,
so like, but is that different for you on set when you're just because like with for something like The Will, like you were executive producer on that and didn't direct that one, correct?
correct.
Yes. Okay. So is that? But are you still like on set every day? How does that work?
No, I was finishing Dirty Sexy
You were
Saint
sitting
at the
there
time.
at the
I
same time,
just
yeah.
wrapped Dirty Sexy Saint.
Okay.
So I had to edit that. No, for The Will, you know, we had a wonderful director, Louise Alston, who is
Yeah.
Australian. She did such a phenomenal job. I just come to set, you know, I work with the author to make sure that the script is good, and then I work and make sure that the director is finding the right talent. You know, we don't have
Awesome.
to sell our content to anyone else, just our fans. So I just make sure that that's who we're focused on finding the right people
Hmm.
for the role. And then I just go to set for a couple of days, 2-3 days, just to make sure at the very beginning, to make sure that everyone's on the same page, that we're all the crew and art department, everybody understands that if it says she's wearing a green dress, she's wearing a green dress. Find the green dress. That's the dress she's wearing. Nobody else gets to make a decision. You making that
This is it.
green dress. That's it. And so you sort of lay down the law. And then I oversee the other directors will edit it, and then myself and Margie, who's our head of post-production, will oversee the edit until the very end. So we will I'll get the movie from, you know, the first director's cut and just redo a lot of producer cuts to get it to exactly where we feel comfortable showing it to the author, and then getting
Yeah.
there.
Thank you so much for everything. And I'm so excited for the fans to see this. I'm definitely going to be watching it on the platform when it comes out on Friday, just so I can see like the full, beautiful, glorious, HD of Melanie and Julio together. So
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I appreciate it so much. And I'm talking to them in an hour or so here.
Oh,
So
cool.
I
Great.
know, I'm excited. I know. And I think they're like going to be they're in totally, I think Melanie's, like you said, in Australia and Julio's in Italy. So the time zones are going to be crazy for them, but I'm grateful to get them together. So
Yeah, well, tell them I say hi.
I will.
They are incredible, and I don't think, as a director, there's no way I could have brought this film to life without their solid commitment to these characters. So, we're
Yes.
lucky.
I appreciate it, Tosca. I will end the meeting here and thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye bye.